Lord, we are halfway 2026, and then the president, through his finance minister, made some promises. The promises is to the effect that, simply put, to reset the Ghanaian economy. The Ghanaian economy in the past few years were under the IMF program. Thankfully, we are exiting the IMF program. In the context of this, they need to find out whether or not the finance minister or the government or the economy, the Ghanaian people are actually feeling the economy. The bottom line is that there have been some successes, which every Ghanaian will have to admit that inflation is not the way it used to be. Exchange rate has shown some relative stability, appreciating by some 40% in the last year, starting to depreciate by some 10% to 15% in this particular year, for half of this particular year. These are the facts. But now we need to look at the micro level, economics of these particular numbers. It is also a fact that no farmer is happy in Ghana at the moment. Like it or take it or leave it. No cocoa farmer is going to be happy or is happy at the moment. No vegetable farmer is happy or happy at the moment. No cereal crop farmer is happy at the moment, because there is food glut. And that food glut is partly because your cedi has aggressively been appreciated, and that makes import more cheaper than domestic production. That is the reason. And that is a pure economic issue. That's a pure mismatch between policy and what the policy should be doing to the good people of Ghana. So that's the first problem. The second problem is that in the midst of this aggressive appreciation of the cedi, of your currency, and working on inflation, aggressively by your excess liquidity, mobbing up of excess liquidity, you are invariably strangulating the purchasing power of the Ghanaian people. That is why you see, even though food prices are low, imported goods are relatively cheaper, many Ghanaians are not able to get the money to buy, because there's virtually no money in the system for the people to purchase. So you see, the balancing of the numbers, the aggressive pursuit of good macroeconomic indicators, and the balancing of that on their repercussion on the lives of Ghana have not well been managed by this government in the last 1.5 years. And that is the problem. The problem is also that because of these measures you have taken, your revenue is failing. The government definitely, and I mentioned it, and I had a course to discuss the 2030, but I said one of the things that I think the government will fail, and truth be told, half year the government has failed, is the revenue target, because I was of the view that they were not realistic, and that if you needed to have realistic, you need to have a trend analysis and factor in by how much do I want my cedi to appreciate or depreciate, and see the effect of that on your revenue, your capacity to raise revenue. Because definitely importation is in dollars, and once your dollar is weaker against your cedi, the nominal value of your cedi term is going to reduce, and your projection in terms of your revenue is going to fail. And once revenue is failing, whatever you have promised the people of Ghana to do will fail. That's why we are not seeing anything on the Women Development Bank. The essence was supposed to introduce much more liquidity to support small businesses led by women. That is why it is failing. That is why we are not able to see any significant work being done on the food transformation program and the agriculture mechanization projects, because half year we are not able to see even one tractor that is being imported by the ministry, contrary to their promise in the budget. That is why it is failing. That is why when you come to the education sector, the government is struggling to recruit people, teachers, and that financial clearance for the recruitment of teachers, because the government is not getting the revenue. That is why we're having difficulty with the government paying the assembly members, contrary to their promise that they were going to be paid regular stipends, and that the government, after paying them 3 months in 2025, has since not been able to pay them. That is why in every sector, energy sector, we're experiencing some doomsday. It's a factor of resources. Even after introducing the 1 cedi per liter levy that was imposed on Ghana. So these are the realities of the economy. And as well as we are talking about the numbers, which are, of course, any serious economist, any serious observer of the economy, any serious follower of how things are, we will admit that some numbers have improved. But the correlation, the supposed correlation between those numbers and improvement in the welfare of the public is what is missing. And those are missing because how we did achieve those numbers is the question. If you are approaching inflation from demand side instead of from supply side, definitely you are going to reduce inflation, but you are not reducing inflation because you are increasing production. You are reducing inflation because you are strangulating demand. So definitely people will feel the hardship. And such a measure does not support economic growth. It's only in production, in supply that you support your GDP growth. So these are the facts. And I think that the government will have to recalibrate its approach in the management of the economy.